Well, welcome back, everyone. Well, this next interview is a real honor for two reasons. One, because today is 9/11, marks the anniversary of the events in 2001. And secondly, because joining me today is not only one of my good friends for over 30 years, but also a co-creator of that beautiful memorial sculpture, Tempered by Memory, which is in Saratoga Springs. This is Noah Savett. How you, Noah?
Jesse, good to see you again. Been too long.
It's been a long time, but we found him. And I just was really glad you could make the time today to come in and talk about this. Tempered by Memory is a sculpture you did, a memorial, to commemorate the events on 9/11. Just quickly, a little bit of history about it. Who approached you and when to create this piece?
Saratoga Arts sent out a call for artists, a limited number of artists that they felt would be able to do this in a fairly short period of time. They contacted independently John Van Alstyne, the sculptor that collaborated with me on this, and John contacted me and thought that it would be a good idea to join forces again, because I have a pretty substantial fabricating facility in Gansevoort, New York. And John had some networking capabilities that I don't have in the sculpture world, and it was a good fit. He presented a proposal, was mostly responsible. He consulted with me on it, but was mostly responsible for writing the proposal, and it was accepted by Saratoga Arts. And
well, that's great. Now, you were telling me that some of the Navy officials located down there in Ballston Spa had made the council aware that remnant pieces of steel from the buildings was available for certain projects. So you then had to truck down to New York City, correctly? Take a look at what was available. What was that like? What was that trip like?
It was amazing just to be surrounded, really two large aircraft hangars to accommodate 6 commercial airliners filled with remnants of the 9/11 from a memory wall that was in Jersey City to destroyed first responder vehicles, to the antenna that was on top of one of the towers, to tons and tons of pieces of structural steel that had come down with the towers. It was
right. Now, when Noah mentions that it's structural steel, this isn't just your everyday steel that you pick up. We were talking about tons and tons of twisted metal. So you select the pieces that you wanted, and you brought those back up to your fabrication plant, which is located right outside of Saratoga, right? Isn't it
in Gansevoort?
Yes. Right. And then you began the laborious process of deciding what you were going to do with that. Now, at one of Noah's art opens, I got to see the sketches, some of the initial sketches that you had put together. But I think you had mentioned to me that you had put models together so you could actually, scale models, so you could view it from different angles and get a sense of whether or not that was communicating what you wanted.
Really, to get an idea of how we were going to use key pieces that weren't not so twisted, and also to come up with pieces that we felt somewhat gave a sense of the twisted pieces. We each made about a dozen maquettes,
models, right?
Yes, models of 2 different sizes. So altogether, we probably made 24 maquettes. John a dozen, and I made a dozen.
Wow, that's all part of the creative process of testing it and looking at it, seeing how the light affects it from different angles, and obviously just communicating the emotional message that you want communicated. All right, so you and John, you settled on the design, and Noah told me before we went on, Noah's business is in steel and in fabrication, as you probably know. A lot of union workers and whatever, and how willing they were to jump in for probably expenses only, just to be able to create the full-scale piece.
Yes, actually, when we got to actually building the piece, I contacted through 3 retired foremen who had been iron workers for my company, and 2 who I knew of who had worked for another company, and they were very happy to be involved, and were very much involved in the putting together the piece. And there were big pieces. It was a very challenging project to put
once
together.
you decided on, how long did it take to actually build the memorial itself?
About a month and a half.
About a month and a half, right. So you guys moved once you knew what you were doing.
Yes.
And again, we're not talking about just settling in, building a small-scale model here. This memorial, if you have seen it, is 26 feet high and weighs 13 tons.
Yes.
You don't move that around too easily, but probably too frequently also, right?
No, not too frequently.
I guess.
We were very fortunate, and I have to mention Charlie Van Hall from Metro Metal Recycling was very gracious in not only helping us truck the material from Kennedy Airport, but also in loaning us a crane, which we used in my yard to fit to.
Yeah, to be able to make the full
to
scale.
Put the piece together, yes.
Yes, right. I remember when it was installed, by the way. Having been over to see this memorial myself, it's very emotional. There's a raw honesty about this piece that defies anything. You know, I really congratulate you. I think it's a very successful work of art. How did it feel today when you were there during the memorial to know that you had made that?
It's been a real great honor from the time I was chosen. I mean, the involvement of the people and the willing involvement of the different companies and the iron workers and the crane operators who donated their time. It was really a wonderful experience. It was very emotional to be there to see how this has become a real part of the fabric of Saratoga. And despite some initial controversies that had to do with citing the piece, I think it really has been embraced by the community.
Well, it isn't art unless it's controversial, right? Because then it
Absolutely.
wouldn't be art. You know, it's also such a labor of love. I know you, so I know what a labor of love this was for you to do. So again, Noah, thank you so much for carving out some time today to come in and talk about it. The name of the piece is Tempered by Steel, and it's at High Rock. Pardon?
Memory.
Memory. I keep doing that. Tempered by Memory. And it's in High Rock Park in Saratoga. And I'll see you at the next New Year's Eve party.
Well, we hope we can get one going.
The tradition.
The boy's growing up. He's getting old enough to go to those parties.
I can't stand it. Okay, I'll see you. To see this interview again, head to our website, looktvonline.com.